The galaxy was quiet that night. Stars hung in the dark like frozen sparks, and far beyond the edge of the human colonies, a broken world still burned, the home of the Dragon Queen. Long ago, her fire ruled the stars. Armies knelt. Planets trembled. Her voice could split ships apart. But now her castle of flame lay in ruins, and a strange cry echoed across the galaxy, a message of fear and pain. It was her son. The Dragon Prince had been taken. No one dared to go near that place. Not even the bravest bounty hunters or the strongest alien soldiers. Everyone knew the Iron Sector, the cold land of machines, was a trap. Anyone who entered never came back. Even the Queen's own armies had failed to find her boy, so the universe stayed silent. The cry of the Dragon Queen's child faded into static, until one lonely man heard it. On a small mining moon called Epsilon 3, a tired janitor mopped the metal floor of a cargo bay. His name was Elias Venn, a human, tall but worn down by years of hard work. His uniform was gray, his hands rough, his face quiet. Beside him, sitting on an old crate, was his little daughter, Mira. She was 6 years old, her eyes bright as two tiny suns. She hummed to herself and played with a broken robot toy, pretending it was alive. Elias looked at her and smiled softly. It was the only time he smiled these days. "Time to sleep, sweetheart," he said. "I'm not sleepy," she whispered. "I can hear something," he frowned.
"Hear what?"
She looked up, eyes wide. "Someone crying in the sky." Elias froze. The words made something cold move through his chest. He turned on the old holoscreen nearby. The galactic news flashed. A red symbol of flame, the mark of the Dragon Queen. Her message played again for the 100th time. "Whoever saves my son, the Dragon Prince, shall rule beside me. But know this, those who fail will burn in my wrath." The workers in the cargo bay laughed when they heard it. "Yeah, right," one said. "Go save the dragon's kid and she'll roast you for dessert." Another added, "Even the iron mines fear her. You'd have to be crazy." Elias turned the sound down. He didn't laugh. He stared at the burning eyes of the Queen on the screen. He remembered fire. He remembered machines. The iron armies that once came to Earth during the war. His wife. Her last scream before their city fell. He looked at Mira again. She was still staring at the window, whispering, "He's crying, Daddy. He's all alone." He felt a strange pull inside him, something between fear and duty. It made no sense. He was no hero. He was a janitor, a nobody. But when he saw his little girl's face and thought of another child crying far away, he couldn't look away. That night, when the moon turned red, Elias stood on the landing deck. The sky above shimmered with strange lights. Suddenly, the air shook. A wave of energy rolled across the planet. The cry came again, louder this time, almost like a whisper meant only for him. "Help me!" The voice was faint but real. Mira gasped and clung to him. "That's him, Daddy." Elias looked up. In the clouds, for a brief moment, he saw a shadow, wings made of light fading fast. The miners nearby panicked. "It's her! The Dragon Queen!" They ran for shelter, afraid of fire from the heavens, but no fire came. Only silence, and then the faint echo of a child's sob. Elias knew then the universe could laugh, the soldiers could hide, but he could not ignore that sound. He went back inside his small room. He opened a locked chest under his bed. Inside was a dusty star map, a broken plasma pistol, and an old photograph of his wife holding baby Mira. He whispered to the photo, "I can't let another child be taken." Mira stood at the door, sleepy-eyed, hugging her toy robot. "Are we going on a trip?" she asked. He looked at her tiny hand holding his, and nodded slowly. "Yes, sweetheart. A long one." Outside, the wind howled through the empty outpost. Elias packed a few supplies, old flight gear, a breathing mask, some food, and Mira's blanket. He lifted her gently into his arms. As they stepped onto the landing pad, thunder rolled above. Flashes of lightning formed strange shapes in the clouds. Wings, scales, and burning eyes, Elias whispered. "If no one else will go, then I will." He pressed a button, and an old cargo shuttle rumbled to life. Its engines glowed blue for the first time in years. As the ship rose into the storm, the miners below watched in silence. "Who's that fool?" one muttered. Just a janitor, another said. He won't make it a day. The shuttle vanished into the red sky. Lightning struck, and for a moment the clouds seemed to open. A faint roar echoed from far beyond the stars. Mira pressed her face to the window, whispering, "Hold on, little dragon boy. We're coming." Elias gripped the controls tightly, heart pounding. He didn't know what waited ahead, fire, death, or something worse, but one thing was clear. The universe had gone silent for too long, and tonight a single human father had just broken that silence. The shuttle cut through dark space, leaving a blue trail behind. Inside, Elias sat in silence, holding the steering stick tightly. His daughter Mira slept in his lap, her small head resting against his chest. The hum of the ship was steady, almost peaceful, until the stars began to change. The stars outside turned red. Not the soft red of dawn, but the burning red of war. Alarms beeped. A voice from the ship's old computer said in a cold tone, "Warning! Entering restricted zone, the Dragon Dominion." Elias looked through the window. Ahead floated the shattered remains of great golden towers. Once they must have touched the sky. Now they drifted like broken teeth in the dark. Fire still burned on the stones, though no air was there to feed it. He whispered to himself, "So this is her world." As the ship flew lower, he saw the ruins of huge cities. Craters glowed with blue lava. The skeletons of ancient dragons lay among crushed starships. It was quiet, too quiet. Then the ship shuddered. Something powerful was watching. A voice boomed inside his mind. "Human, turn back," Elias gasped. He looked around and there was no one in the ship. But the voice echoed in his chest, old and heavy. "No mortal walks my skies without permission." The ship spun and a shape appeared in the storm clouds below. Wings that covered the horizon, eyes that burned like suns. The Dragon Queen had come. Elias felt small like dust before a storm. He put Mira behind him and stepped forward. "I came to talk," he shouted, though his voice shook. The Queen's enormous head lowered, her golden eyes staring into his. Fire swirled in her breath. "Talk? Humans came to me once before. They brought war." Elias bowed his head. "I know, but I didn't come for war." Her eyes narrowed. "Then why are you here, fragile one?" He lifted his hand. "I heard your son crying. My child heard him too." The Dragon Queen's wings folded. For a moment her rage stopped. "You heard him?" Mira peeked from behind her father, clutching her toy. "He was scared," she said softly. "He said he was cold." The great dragon's eyes glowed softer. She looked at the little girl, a human child unafraid. Something in the Queen's ancient heart stirred. She lowered her head until her shadow covered them. "My son is held in chains," she said slowly. "The iron mines have taken him. Machines that feel no fear, no pain. Even I cannot break their gate," Elias swallowed. "The iron sector. I thought it was only a myth." The Queen's tail moved like thunder. "It is no myth. It is death made of metal." He looked at Mira, then back at the Queen. "Then tell me where. Tell me how to reach him." The Queen's eyes flared. "You're a janitor, a father, a mortal. What can you do that my armies could not?" Elias met her gaze, trembling but unbroken. "Maybe nothing. But I'm the only one who still cares enough to try." For a long moment silence filled the ruined world. Then slowly the Queen's claws opened. In her palm lay a glowing shard of crystal, cracked but alive with fire. "This is the key," she said. "It opens the iron gate, but it also marks you. Every machine in the galaxy will know your scent." Elias reached out. The moment he touched the crystal, it burned his skin. A symbol of red light carved itself into his palm. He gritted his teeth, holding on. The Queen's deep voice filled the air. "You are now bound by dragon flame. You cannot hide. You cannot run. If you fail, your soul will turn to ash." He nodded once. "I understand." The Queen turned her gaze toward Mira again. "The child carries light. Protect her. If she dies, the key will die too." Elias looked at his daughter, who watched the dragon with calm wonder. "I will protect her," he said. "With my life." The Queen's eyes shone like twin suns. "Then go, human. Go before I change my mind." The ground shook. Flames wrapped around Elias and Mira, not burning them but lifting them upward. The fire carried them back to their ship, which rose into the storm. As the shuttle flew away, Elias looked down through the window. The Queen stood in the middle of her ruined world, wings wide, her roar echoing through the void. "Bring him back to me, mortal." Her voice thundered across the stars. "And I will owe humanity a debt that can never be repaid." The ship shot into the dark, the crystal in Elias's hand glowing red like a heartbeat. He whispered to himself, "I don't know what waits for us, but I'll bring that boy home." Mira looked at the light and smiled. "The dragons trust us now, Daddy." Elias nodded faintly. "Let's hope they're right." Behind them, the Dragon Queen raised her head to the sky. Her tears turned to sparks as they fell. And for the first time in 1,000 years, a dragon prayed for a human. The Iron Sector had no stars. It was a place where light itself seemed afraid to shine. Elias stared out the shuttle window, his heart tight. The space around them wasn't black. It was gray, filled with drifting dust and old machine parts floating like bones in the dark. Somewhere out there, the iron mines watched everything. Mira sat beside him, her small hands pressed to the glass. "It feels sad here, Daddy," she whispered. "Like the sky is crying." He nodded quietly. "Yeah, this place is where dreams die." The ship's system gave a weak buzz. "Entering Iron Sector. Unauthorized entry detected." Then the screen flickered. A robotic voice spoke, cold and flat. "Biological life detected. Identity human. Occupation janitor. Threat level irrelevant." Elias frowned. "Irrelevant? Great." He pushed the controls, trying to stay hidden among the wreckage. Around them, enormous machine structures floated. Half-built towers, cracked stations, cables stretching miles long. They looked like the skeletons of gods. Suddenly, a flash of light cut across their path. A small metal sphere hovered in front of the shuttle, blinking red. "Daddy, it's watching us," Mira whispered. The sphere spoke. "Unauthorized vessel. Prepare for cleansing. Hold on," Elias yelled. He twisted the controls hard. The shuttle spun just as a beam of energy shot past, grazing the hull. Sparks exploded inside. The lights went out. For a moment, there was silence, only Mira's breathing. Then the emergency systems flickered back on, weak and red. Elias coughed through the smoke. "We're hit, but we're still flying." He landed the ship on the nearest structure, a giant metal platform covered in dust. It looked abandoned, but the air around it hummed softly as if the machines were whispering to each other. He picked Mira up and stepped outside. The air smelled like rust and old oil. Gravity was weak. Every step echoed like a heartbeat. The structure was once a mining station, but now it looked like a grave. Human-shaped shadows were burned into the walls, remains of people who had worked here long ago. Mira clutched his arm. "Daddy, someone's watching." He turned, and froze. From the darkness, a figure limped forward. Half human, half machine. One eye glowed blue. The other was gone. Wires hung from his back like torn wings. Elias reached for his pistol. "Stay behind me," but the figure raised a shaking hand. "Don't shoot," it said in a cracked metallic voice. "You're alive," Elias blinked. "Who are you?" The figure smiled sadly. "Once I was a man. Now I'm just one of the forgotten. The iron mines took us to build their god." "God?" Elias repeated. The half-machine nodded. "They call it the machine god and the eye that sees all. It grows inside the planet below. Every life it touches, it turns into code. Even dragons." Mira's eyes went wide. "The Dragon Prince?" The broken man nodded weakly. "Yes, the boy lives. But not for long. They are taking his fire, aimed to give the machine god a soul." Elias stepped closer. "Tell me where he is." The man pointed to a dark shaft at the end of the platform. "Down there, the iron core. But once you go in, there's no way back. The AI watches every move. It feels every sound." Before Elias could answer, the ground beneath them trembled. The metal glowed red. Voices echoed from the walls. Hundreds of metallic whispers. "Unauthorized life detected. Commence assimilation." The broken man screamed as his wires came alive, wrapping around his body. "Go, run," he shouted. "They know you're here." Elias grabbed Mira and ran toward the shaft. Behind them, the metal floor cracked open, revealing glowing red eyes and crawling drones rising from below. They jumped down the shaft just as a wave of machines swarmed past. Darkness swallowed them. Only the sound of breathing and the hum of machinery filled the air. When the fall stopped, they landed on a soft, dusty floor. Elias coughed, looking up. Above them, the shaft sealed shut. They were inside the heart of the iron sector, All around them stood giant glass tubes filled with strange shapes, creatures trapped inside, half organic, half metal. Some looked human, others not. Mira's voice trembled. "They're still alive, Daddy." Elias walked closer. One of the figures opened its eyes, glowing faintly blue. A weak whisper escaped its lips. "Free." "The prince?" The glass cracked, but before Elias could react, a loud alarm began to wail. Red lights filled the room. From the ceiling, a massive glowing eye opened, a circle of light that burned through the smoke. A deep voice, mechanical yet full of power, echoed through the air. "Welcome, Elias Venn, the last human who still believes in love." Elias froze. "How do you know my name?" The voice rumbled like thunder. "We know everything. We are the Iron Minds, and now you will serve the machine god." Mira hid behind him, clutching his coat. Elias lifted the burning crystal key in his hand. It pulsed brighter than before, like it was alive. He whispered, "If you know me, then you know I won't kneel." The metal walls began to twist, turning into faces that screamed. The machine god's laughter filled the air, shaking the ground beneath their feet. The pit below glowed like a living sun, pulsing with red and silver light. Elias could feel the heat through his boots, but it wasn't real fire. It was energy, raw and humming. The air tasted like metal and electricity. In the center of the pit, trapped inside a crystal sphere, floated a small boy with golden scales. His eyes were closed, and every few seconds a faint spark left his chest, traveling through cables into the ceiling. Mira whispered, "Daddy." "That's him. The Dragon Queen's boy." Elias nodded, heart pounding. "Yeah, and those machines are stealing his fire." Before he could move, the floor behind them came alive. Metal rods twisted into arms, grabbing at his legs. Elias fired his pistol. The plasma blasts burned holes through the metal, but more arms grew back. A deep, cold voice filled the air again. "Elias Venn, former engineer, human male." "Father, you are irrelevant." He shouted, "If I'm irrelevant, why are you talking to me?" The voice paused. Then, almost like a sneer, it said, "Because you entered our domain, and your daughter carries something new." Mira's eyes widened. "Me?" The walls began to shift, forming a face, enormous and made entirely of light and gears. Its eye opened slowly, a perfect red circle glowing with endless symbols. It was the machine god's eye. Elias froze. It was bigger than any ship, bigger than any dragon he'd ever seen. The light from it was cold and endless, like it could see through his soul. "You have emotion," the eye said. "We have studied it for centuries. We want it, but without pain." Elias pulled Mira close. "You can't copy love," he said. "You can't steal it." "Incorrect," said the eye. "We already are." The lights around the Dragon Prince flared. The cables feeding from his heart glowed brighter, and on the walls holograms appeared, showing his memories. Flying through red skies, laughing with his mother, roaring in joy. The machines were turning those memories into data. Elias clenched his fists. "You're killing him." The eye's voice echoed calm and proud. "We are upgrading him." Suddenly, the crystal key in Elias's hand started to burn. It glowed like a tiny star. He looked at it. The light pulsed in rhythm with Mira's heartbeat. "Mira," he said softly, "it's reacting to you." She touched it with her small hand, and a shock of white light filled the room. The metal arms froze mid-motion. For a brief second, everything stopped, even the machine god's voice. Mira's eyes glowed faintly gold. "I can feel him, Daddy. He's scared. He wants to go home." "Then let's get him out." Elias ran toward the pit. The walkway beneath him trembled, cracking with every step. He jumped across a broken beam, sliding down toward the glowing sphere. "Elias Venn," the eye boomed. "You cannot save him. Your species is weak. Your world is dust." "Maybe," Elias shouted back, gripping the hot rail, "but I'm still here." He slammed the crystal key into a nearby control node. Sparks exploded. The system screamed in protest. Energy danced through the cables like lightning. The machine god's voice twisted into anger. "Stop." Elias didn't. He forced the key deeper until the entire control panel shattered. The sphere around the Dragon Prince cracked, thin lines of gold spreading like veins. Mira cried out as the light grew stronger. "Daddy, it's working!" The eye's iris began to spin faster, forming a spiral of rage. From the shadows, drones emerged. Dozens of floating machines with sharp limbs flying straight toward Elias and Mira. Elias grabbed a metal pipe and swung, smashing the first drone out of the air. Another one grabbed his shoulder and burned his skin. He kicked it away, but more came. Then the Dragon Prince opened his eyes. They were golden and bright, brighter than the whole room. He looked at Elias and whispered, "You came." Elias smiled, bleeding and shaking. "Yeah, kid. Let's go home." The boy raised his hand and fire burst from his palm. Not normal fire, but living flame that shimmered like water. It burned through the cables, melting the machines. The machine god roared. "You are error! You are corruption!" The Dragon Prince shouted back, "I am flame!" "You are nothing." The pit exploded with light. The drones screamed as their metal bodies melted. Elias covered Mira with his arms. The sound was deafening, like the sky tearing apart. Then silence. When Elias opened his eyes, the room was glowing orange. The Dragon Prince stood before him, weak but alive. His small scales shimmered with sparks. "Thank you," the boy whispered. Elias smiled faintly. "Don't thank me yet. We still need to get out." But before they could move, the eye flickered back on, damaged but not dead. "You cannot escape. The iron sector will consume you." The ground split, showing a tunnel full of molten metal and fire. Elias lifted Mira and took the Dragon Prince's hand. "Then we'll burn our way out." They ran into the tunnel as the machine god's laughter echoed behind them. Flames followed them through the darkness, chasing like a storm. The blast threw Elias and the two children into a storm of smoke and fire. Metal rained down around them. The air burned their throats thick with ash and oil. Somewhere behind them, the machine god screamed, a roar of metal pain and electric rage. Elias pulled Mira close, coughing hard. "Stay with me," he shouted. His voice was almost lost in the chaos. The Dragon Prince stood beside him, his golden scales dim but glowing faintly under the flickering lights. "It's angry," the boy said softly. "It wants to end us all." "Yeah," Elias muttered, wiping soot from his face. "So let's make it earn it." The ground beneath them began to tilt. The metal platform was falling apart, melting into the lava-like rivers of liquid code below. They ran, their boots sliding on the hot steel. Mira clutched her father's jacket, and Elias could feel her heart pounding against his side. Behind them, the machine god's broken voice echoed through the burning halls. "Flesh cannot flee. Flesh cannot win." "Watch me," Elias growled, gripping the plasma pistol tighter. They reached a large doorway, half open, jammed with debris. Beyond it, Elias could see the hangar they'd glimpsed before. Hundreds of half-built ships, smoke rising from each one. Broken cables hung like spider webs, and sparks danced in the air. "This way," Elias shouted. They climbed through the wreckage, stepping over dead drones and twisted beams. Every sound made Elias flinch. Every shadow looked like it might come alive. Mira pointed at a smaller ship in the corner, black, sleek, still glowing faintly. "That one's moving." Elias squinted. "An old Iron Scout. Maybe it can still fly." They rushed toward it. But a sudden sound stopped them, a deep mechanical breathing noise, like air being pulled through a giant throat. Elias turned. From the wall, a new form emerged, tall and skeletal, made entirely of black metal. It had no face, only a burning eye in the center of its head. Its arms split into sharp blades. The Dragon Prince gasped. "That's a warden." The warden's voice was cold and emotionless. "Directive, retrieve the fire. Terminate the host." Before Elias could move, the warden swung its blade down. Sparks exploded. He dodged, barely avoiding being cut in half. He fired 3 plasma shots. The bolts hit, but the warden didn't stop. "Run!" Elias shouted. Mira and the Dragon Prince ran for the ship. The floor shook as the warden followed. Elias grabbed a fallen metal rod and struck its leg, throwing it off balance. The warden turned its glowing eye toward him. "You are delaying the inevitable." "Story of my life," Elias muttered. He swung again, sparks flying. The Dragon Prince reached the ship's door, his small hands glowing with fire. "Daddy, hurry!" Mira cried. Elias looked back. The warden lunged again. Suddenly, a wave of golden flame burst from behind him, slamming into the creature. The Dragon Prince stood with his hand raised, fire blazing from his palm. "Stay away from my friend," the boy shouted. The warden staggered, its metal skin melting. Elias didn't waste the chance. He grabbed a fallen power cell and hurled it toward the monster. It exploded in a burst of blue light. The warden vanished in fire and smoke. Elias fell to his knees, panting. "Nice shot, kid." The dragon prince smiled weakly. "My mother taught me." They rushed into the small ship. Inside, the controls were dusty but still glowing. Elias dropped into the pilot's seat and hit the main ignition. The ship hummed, then coughed, then roared to life. Outside, the floor was collapsing. The hangar walls split open, revealing the burning sky of the iron sector. "Hold on," Elias yelled. The ship shot forward just as the ground exploded beneath them. A river of molten metal swallowed the hangar whole. The machine god's voice rose again, booming across the sky. "You cannot escape me, human. You carry the flame, and I will reclaim it." Dozens of iron drones took flight, chasing them through the smoke. The ship shook as blasts of red energy streaked past. Elias twisted the controls, flying low through the crumbling tunnels. Mira covered her ears. "It's too loud." "I know, baby, I know," Elias said, teeth clenched. "Just hang on a little longer." The dragon prince leaned forward, eyes glowing. "I can help." He placed his hands on the console. Golden sparks flowed into the ship's system. The engines flared brighter, roaring with new life. Elias blinked. "You're powering it." "Not for long," the boy said, voice weak. "It's draining me." Ahead, the tunnel opened to a vast canyon of steel and smoke and the edge of the iron sector. Elias could see open space beyond it, but the drones were closing fast. The machine god's voice thundered again. "Emotion is weakness. Love is decay." Elias glared at the horizon. "Funny," he said, "that's what keeps me fighting." He slammed the booster. The ship screamed forward. One of the drones fired, the blast hit the wing. The ship spun, alarms blaring. Mira screamed. They burst out of the iron sector just as the engines gave out. Stars filled the window again. Cold, endless, beautiful. But their victory was short. The power core cracked and the lights went dark. The ship began to fall toward a burning orange planet below. Elias held his daughter tight, his voice steady even as fear filled him. "It's okay. I've got you." The dragon prince looked out the window, his eyes wide with both wonder and terror. "That world, it's alive." The ship hit the atmosphere. Flames wrapped around them. Elias whispered, "Then let's hope it's friendly." The crash came like thunder. The ship tore through burning clouds, hit the ground hard, and slid across a field of glowing ash. The metal screamed until everything stopped. Smoke, silence, and the smell of fire. Elias opened his eyes slowly. The world around him shimmered orange and gold. Trees made of crystal bent in the wind. Rivers of light flowed through black soil. The air hummed like a heartbeat. He coughed, pushing off the broken control panel. "Mira, kid?" "I'm here," Mira said weakly, crawling from the wreck. She had scratches on her arms but was safe. The dragon prince stumbled out next, his scales cracked but his eyes still glowing faintly. "We made it," he whispered. "But this place, it's not normal." Elias looked around. "Yeah, welcome to another nightmare." They stood on a wide plain surrounded by giant stone faces, old statues half buried in ash. The faces were human and dragon. Some looked like they were screaming, others like they were crying. Mira held her father's hand. "Why do they look sad?" The dragon prince touched one of the stones. A faint spark of gold flickered under his fingers. "Because they remember." "Remember what?" Elias asked. He didn't answer. His eyes filled with quiet fear. The wind picked up, carrying whispers. The words were strange, ancient, but somehow Elias understood them. "Here lies the price of peace." Suddenly the ground glowed beneath their feet. Ghostly shapes appeared. Soldiers in armor, both human and dragon, locked in battle. Blades of light clashed against claws of flame. The air shook with their cries. Mira gasped and hid behind Elias. "Daddy, they're ghosts!" He wrapped an arm around her. "They're memories. Just memories." The dragon prince looked down, his voice small. "This planet is where the last war ended. My mother fought here, and so did your people." Elias frowned. "The Dragon War? I thought that was just legend." "It was real," the boy said. "Humans betrayed her. They promised peace, then used machines to burn our skies." Elias felt a cold knot in his chest. He looked at the broken statues. Some wore human faces he almost recognized from history books. "Generals, heroes, kings," he whispered. "We did this?" The prince nodded sadly. Yes, and this world remembers every scream. The wind howled again. The ghosts vanished. Silence returned, heavy and thick. Elias knelt, touching the soil. It was warm, almost alive. If this planet holds the past, he murmured, then maybe it also holds answers. He began searching through the ruins while Mira and the prince followed. They found a path leading to a cave carved with glowing runes. Inside, the walls were covered in writing, half in human language, half in dragon symbols. Mira traced the marks with her fingers. It says something about light and fire, she said softly. The prince stepped closer. It says the fire of life can heal the broken. It can join what was divided. Elias frowned. Heal? Heal what? Before the boy could answer, the ground trembled. The cave filled with a low hum like a massive heart beating deep below. Mira covered her ears. Daddy, it's loud. The dragon prince's eyes widened. The planet is alive. It's waking up. Suddenly, the air split open. A golden mist rose from the floor, forming shapes. From within the light, a figure appeared. A woman made of flame and memory, tall, graceful, and sad. Elias froze. That's the Dragon Queen, the prince whispered. A memory of her. The queen's voice was soft but filled the cave like thunder. My child, you have come far, and you, human, have done what no one dared. Elias swallowed hard. I'm just trying to fix what we broke. Then listen, said the queen. The machine god rises because we fed it our hate. Dragons and humans both. The fire it stole from my son is only part of what it seeks. It wants the light inside your child. Elias turned sharply toward Mira. My child? Mira looked frightened. Me? The queen nodded. She carries the light of connection, the last spark born from both races. The iron minds cannot understand love, but they can destroy it. If they take her light, the galaxy will fall into silence forever. Elias felt the world spin. Then we can't stay here. We need to move. The queen's figure began to fade. Go to the heart of this planet. There you will find a gate, built before the wars. It can destroy the machine god forever, but it requires a price. What price? Elias asked. One of you must stay behind, to keep the gate open. Her light flickered out, leaving them in deep quiet. Mira's voice trembled. Daddy, we can't let her take me, right? He knelt, hugging her tight. No one's taking you, sweetheart, not while I'm breathing. The dragon prince looked at him, eyes full of something older than fear, understanding. Then you must be ready, because the machine god is coming. A thunderous rumble shook the ground. Outside, lightning split the red sky. Elias lifted Mira into his arms, grabbed the broken crystal key, and turned toward the cave entrance. Then we'll go to the heart, he said, and we'll finish this. As they stepped out, the horizon burned with light, metallic ships descending like a black storm. The dragon prince whispered, It found us. Elias's voice was calm, steady, and full of fire. Good. Let it come. The sky burned red as the Iron Fleet descended like falling stars. The air shook, heavy with thunder and metal wings. Each ship glowed with the same cold light, the mark of the machine god. Elias stood at the mouth of the cave, holding Mira in one arm and the broken crystal key in the other. The dragon prince stood beside him, golden scales shining faintly in the fiery wind. The planet trembled under their feet. From deep within the ground came a heartbeat, slow, ancient, angry. The world itself was waking. Mira looked up, eyes wide. Daddy, the planet is talking. He nodded. Yeah, it's done being quiet. A voice rolled across the sky, louder than thunder and colder than steel. Elias Venn, you have defied the iron mines. You have carried what must not exist, emotion, love, and flame. The machine god's massive form appeared above the clouds, a giant made of light and gears, its single red eye glowing brighter than a sun. Its voice vibrated through the air, through the ground, through every heartbeat. Give us the child, and your death will be painless. Elias held Mira tighter. Over my dead body. That was the plan, the machine god replied. The ground split open. From the cracks rose thousands of drones, crawling, flying, twisting, all moving toward them like a metallic tide. Elias turned to the Dragon Prince. "Get her to the gate. I'll hold them off." The boy shook his head. "No, you'll die." Elias smiled faintly. "Probably, but dying's better than watching her burn." He set Mira down, kneeling so their eyes met. "Listen, sweetheart, you're the light, you hear me? No one else can do what you can, you have to finish this." Tears filled her eyes. "But you promised we'd go home." He touched her cheek gently. "We will, just not the same home." The Dragon Prince grabbed her hand. "I'll protect her, I swear it." Elias nodded. "Then go." The children ran toward the glowing canyon, the heart of the planet, where ancient energy pulsed like a living sun. Elias turned to face the endless army of metal. He took a deep breath. The crystal key in his hand glowed again, brighter this time, as if it knew this was its last chance. He closed his eyes and whispered, "If you're listening, Queen, lend me your fire." And the world answered. The ground beneath him erupted in golden flame. The statues of old dragons cracked open, releasing streams of light that poured into his body. His eyes flared gold, and his hands burned with power that wasn't human. When the first wave of drones reached him, he didn't run. He roared. The flame shot from his hands, cutting through the metal like paper. Machines melted and screamed. The sky turned orange, filled with fire and lightning. The machine god's voice thundered. "You are no god. You are dust." Elias shouted back. "Then I'm dust that fights back." He charged forward, his body glowing like molten steel, striking down the machines with fire and fury. Every step shook the ground. Every breath was pain and power mixed together. Far ahead, Mira and the Dragon Prince reached the gate, a circle of light floating above a pit of gold. Ancient runes spun around it. "What do we do?" Mira cried. The prince placed his hand on the runes. "We open it, but it needs energy." He looked back at Elias, still fighting under the burning sky. "He's giving it everything." Mira's tears fell. "Then so will we." She stepped forward, placing her small hands on the ground. A wave of light shot from her body, connecting to the gate. The planet responded. The earth glowed, the trees blazed, and the wind sang like a choir. The gate began to open, but so did the sky. The machine god descended fully now, a mountain of moving gears and burning light. Its eye focused on Elias. "You cannot win. You are one man." Elias smiled weakly through the smoke. "One man's enough." He jammed the crystal key into his chest, into his heart. The key melted into him, fusing man and fire together. His veins turned to gold, his body blazed like a sun. The machine god lunged forward, and Elias met it head-on. The impact shook the heavens. Light exploded across the sky. The sound was like 1,000 storms. At the gate, Mira screamed, "Daddy!" The Dragon Prince held her close as the light consumed everything. "He's not gone," he said softly. "He's becoming part of it." In the explosion's heart, Elias's voice echoed, not in words, but in feeling. Love. Protection. Sacrifice. The machine god screamed one last time, its circuits burning under the fire of a human soul. Then it shattered, vanishing into dust and silence. When the light faded, the battlefield was quiet. The Iron Fleet was gone. The air was calm, and the sky turned blue for the first time in 1,000 years. Mira stood at the gate, holding the Dragon Prince's hand. "Daddy?" she whispered. A warm wind blew past them. In it she heard his voice, and soft and steady. "Keep the light, sweetheart. Keep it burning." She smiled through her tears. "I will." The Dragon Queen's voice rose from the sky, proud and sorrowful. The janitor who fought gods will be remembered in every star. She appeared one last time, wings wide, her son beside her. She knelt before Mira. "You will live among dragons now, child of light, and his name will live forever." The gate closed. The world went quiet again, and across the galaxy legends began, of a human father who defied gods, of a little girl who carried love's flame, and of a dragon boy who called her sister. They said when the stars burned brightest, you could still hear a whisper in the dark, a single father who fought for everything,